Welcome back to Floss Law. I've gotten so many great comments, emails, phone calls, everything from my auction.com video. I'm so glad that you guys got so much value out of it. I want to do right now as a follow-up to my auction.com video, the 5 most common questions and problems I've been getting with all of my auction.com phone calls, emails, and clients I've had coming in right now. If you like this video, if you like any of my other videos, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to my profile page. You can find my video talking about using auction.com, my tips and guide to using it for buying properties. If you like this video, like any of my other videos, please hit subscribe, hit like on there. I'd really appreciate it. All right, here's the 5 things that you need to know. Most common questions I get. Number 1, liens on the property. Now, I get so many people, they get a property, they're about to buy a property, they bought a property from auction.com, and they have questions about liens that are on the property. There's two main types of liens you need to know about that are on a property. Number 1, there's a lien that attaches to the property itself. Number 2, there's a lien that attaches to the person who owned the property. When you're dealing with those mortgages that are on there, those mortgages attach to the property, but they also attach to the person who signed a note with a bank. It signed a promissory note. They failed to pay on the promissory note, so now they have that mortgage as a lien on the property. They're enforcing it. But ultimately, they're enforcing that against the person who signed that mortgage. You still want to double check and make sure that everything was done right with that foreclosure case. Meaning you want to make sure that all of the mortgages on the property were named in the foreclosure case. We can double check that through just attorney review towards checking the title commitment, and we can go look at that foreclosure case and make sure everyone was named as a defendant on there. If everyone was named as a defendant on there, then all those mortgages get extinguished through the foreclosure action. If one gets missed, it potentially could still survive and be on the property. Only happens 1% of the time, but this is the one time you don't want to be the 1%er. You don't want to be the 1%er that got a property where there was a mortgage on there that didn't get treated. So we want to just double check, make sure everything got treated on the property. Most of the time, it's not going to be the case. What are the other liens we're going to be concerned about? There are mechanics liens. A mechanic lien is anyone who did work on a property that didn't get paid for it. If you hired someone to paint your house, if you hired someone to put new cabinets in your house, whatever work you had done to the property, if you didn't pay that person, they can file something called a mechanics lien. It's a lien on the property that if you try to refinance it or sell it, they can get collected for their money. They can block you from doing anything with it. Now, I live, full disclosure, I'm in Cook County, which is in Chicago, essentially, in the state of Illinois, United States, in case we have any international viewers. So a mechanics lien here is valid for about 2 years, meaning they can file the lien, and that mechanics lien only stays good for about a 2-year period. At the end of that 2 years, it just kind of expires. So I know when I look at mechanics lien, it's 5 years old. I don't need to do anything with it because it's old. It's an old lien. It's not valid anymore. It doesn't stay. It's not like our other lien where it stays valid kind of forever. Mechanics lien has a sunset clause. It ends at a certain amount of time. So we don't have to worry about that as much. Now, if it's been mechanics lien, also could be complicated because they could file it at any time. So they can wait until the foreclosure case is done and then file after. So it's still an open lien on there. So you need to be careful with those. So you have the potential mechanics lien. There could be a lien on the property for the real estate tax bill that's due if there's outstanding real estate taxes. But the advantage with auction.com versus doing like a sheriff auction, a live auction, is you have that 30-day period to prepare for closing, and generally you can, between you and the seller, can come up with the treatment for that lien. So it shouldn't be a surprise. It's not going to be something after the closing you're going to find out about. Generally the seller, the bank, is going to be responsible for paying those back taxes. So you got that. There could be other little liens. There's depending on where you're at, like a municipality. So depending on where you're at, it might be referred to as a municipality, it might be referred to as a city, a town, a village, whatever. It all means the same thing as basically where you live. In our neighborhood where I'm at, they're very big on something called a transfer tax. So a transfer tax means that you need to go through a process in order to record a deed on a property. They literally put a stamp. It's a transfer stamp because they put a stamp on the deed. If you don't have that stamp, you can't record that deed. Some places make you go through a big process to get that stamp, meaning you have to pay them local taxes. You might have to go through an inspection. You might have to go through a bunch of different steps. And part of those steps are maybe the house sat without any work done it for a while, so they went over and they were cutting the grass. They weren't doing that out of the kindness of their hearts. They were going over cutting the grass. And now when you go to buy your stamp to close on it, they're going to collect on the fees for cutting that grass. I've seen all kinds of different things. Sometimes they'll run a check of any outstanding parking tickets associated with your property and stuff. It gets really weird sometimes. But essentially, they're holding up that step of the process so they can collect money. So that could be an issue. They also may have a village inspection. They may say, we want to make sure all the houses in our neighborhood are kept in proper condition. So in order to close on this property, you have to do an inspection with one of our village inspectors. We're going to give you a punch list of things that you have to repair. You have to agree to repair those things either before closing, or in this case with an auction.com property, you're assuming those repairs. So you'll have to sign an affidavit that you agree to do those repairs within like 6 months, usually something like that. So you need to be aware of that kind of stuff. So those are all liens that attach to the property. There could be other little liens on there. There's always sometimes you deal with kind of weird little random liens. That's when you need to have a good team of people helping you out to deal with it. I don't want to get into every strange little thing. Most of the time we're going to be dealing with the mortgage, the mechanics lien, the real estate taxes, and any village liens. If there's a previous contract on the property, you don't need to worry about that. The different little things that could be on there, but those are the main things you're worried about. But it seems like I get a lot of phone calls. I probably get at least one phone call a day with someone worried about will the liens be released on the property? And I'd say, well, it kind of depends on the lien. But if you're worried about those mortgages, they should be taken care of, and you shouldn't have to worry about that. I'd say should. You still need to check. But if you have someone like me, it takes me about 5 minutes to check, and I'll say we're fine here. We don't have to worry about it. Second biggest question I get is, when can we close? Oh, I get this a lot. Oh, this pains me when I get people that are frustrated about closing. I'm dealing with a bunch of people right now. I have to make a bunch of phone calls when I get done with this about when are we going to be able to schedule a closing. Why is that a problem? You think, well, they contact you right away. They want the earnest money to do the contract right away. So why would it be an issue to close? Remember we were talking about the transfer stamp, and that you have to go through a process to get that stamp. Keep that in the back of your head for a second. So the banks are in the business of lending money. They're not in the business of owning property. They don't want to expose themselves to more liability than they need to. They know that if they own property, that the villages come around may want them to start paying, the bills for the property, want them to start paying, the water bill, all that kind of stuff, and start trying to collect from them. They'll want them to start paying or do any repairs the village wants them to do. The village may come around and make them do things of the property or register it as a vacant property. A lot of villages, because of the foreclosure crisis, have rules now that if a property sits vacant, it's owned by a bank, they have to pay a fee and register it as a vacant property and maintain insurance on the property in case something happens on the property. The banks know that. For that reason, when the banks complete that foreclosure process, so the property gets foreclosed on, the foreclosure case is done, goes up on auction.com, you buy it thinking they're ready to close. Really, on the back end, the bank is putting it up on auction.com wanting to get your contract on it, but they haven't recorded the deed. So there's an actual deed that has to transfer it from that owner, whether it's a deed in lieu, a sheriff's deed, a judicial deed, whatever it might be. That deed still has to get recorded from them, from the previous owner to that bank. They're going to wait to do that to the last possible minute because they don't want to have that property on title and have to be responsible for people coming around trying to collect money from them, making them do repairs, making them do whatever. They want to ideally record that property under their name and then sell it to you as fast as possible. So they have the shortest window of liability if something should happen where someone comes around saying, oh, by the way, we've been waiting for someone to buy this property so that we're making you replace the porch or the roof or something like that. They don't want that. They want you to take that responsibility. So what happens a lot, and I have a handful of clients right now, unfortunately, where we're in this weird limbo where we're under contract and we're ready to close. We have the money ready to close, but the deed hasn't been recorded yet. And we're waiting for them to go through the steps of getting the village inspection, getting everything done to get that transfer stamp so that they can record the deed. Because until they record that deed and they have title on the property, they can't pull the title commitment. Until they pull the title commitment, they can't close with us. So there's this log jam where we're just waiting for them to complete that step. It happens a lot. It happens very often with these files where they hurry up and get you as the buyer ready to go. You've sent your earnest money in, and now they start the process of getting ready to sell. They make you think that they're ready to close in 2 weeks, and they're not. They're really, really not. Unfortunately, it happens quite often, and you need to be prepared for that as part of the process. Depending on how difficult it is to get the transfer stamp, sometimes they can get it in a couple weeks, then they pull a title commitment, and then we could close a couple weeks later. I've had files where it's taken 3-4 months for them to get that deed recorded because I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but banks are not very good at taking instructions. They're really good at giving instructions, but when someone tells them what to do, they kind of don't like it and they freeze up because they're not equipped to following procedures. They're equipped to giving procedures, but when someone turns around and says, no, now you guys have to do this, they kind of don't know what to do because they're not built through their whole flow, their whole management process of information travels down, they expect it to be done. They don't really have a channel for the information to flow back up to get done. So it's very, very slow for them to go back up and say, hey, we need to pay for this. We need someone to sign this to register for it as a vacant property. They're not good at that. It's a very, very long process. You're waiting weeks to get one answer from them to do so, or to sign one document so that you can get the process to move forward. So we get that quite often. The only thing I can do to try to help with that process is, unfortunately, sometimes I need to work around people. So I just got scolded by someone on Friday. It was kind of funny. But the attorney that's handling the closing for the seller, the bank, is not the same attorney that did the foreclosure case. So and I don't know why they split this up. So they'll have one attorney that's just doing the foreclosure, one attorney that's just doing the closings. Which is never good because you instead of just having an inter-office communication, now you have two different huge law firms trying to communicate with each other, and both you're dealing with the paralegals trying to communicate. So for 2 weeks, I was asking for updates, and I just kept getting these really generic emails of, "Oh, we'll let you know, we'll get back to you, and we're waiting for a response," and blah 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 blah. And I was getting frustrated. I could tell that they weren't really working the file. So I actually went around them. I'm not necessarily proud of doing it, but I needed to represent my client. So I went around them and I contacted the attorney that was doing the foreclosure or had done the foreclosure. And I said, they keep telling me that you're going to get the deed recorded. And it's been like 2 weeks now. And we've done everything with the village and it's still not recorded. So what's going on? And he said, well, we're not recording the deed. They requested us to send the deed to someone else that's going to record the deed for their office. But we need to get permission from the client to send the deed out. So we're just waiting for that permission. Once they give us permission, then we're going to send the deed over to them and they're going to record it, which is the 180 degree opposite of what they had been telling me for 2 weeks. I told them that and they got very mad at me for essentially telling them that they were giving me the wrong information. I was like, well, how is that my problem that you're lying to me? So it was a weird exchange of emails that they were mad at me for exposing them for giving bad information. Number 3, it always makes me sad when I get this phone call, but I get people once in a while that have won a property, they've won the auction, and they're in the process of either getting under contract or just got under the contract and want to know if they can back out. No, you can't. You won the bid. That's the whole point. This is so you have the normal process of buying a house when it's on the MLS. You get an inspection period and you get a bunch of outs. Then you have the sheriff's sale where you're buying it in a 24-hour period and you have no contingencies and you're taking all the responsibility. Auction.com kind of sits somewhere in that middle, so you don't have to have all the money right away. You get 30 days to close, but it's not like an MLS sale where you're going to get a conventional sale where you're going to get inspection periods or contingency or anything like that. You're not getting any of that, guys. You have to read the descriptions for these auctions, please. When you're looking at people just look at the property and register for it and start bidding. There's a whole lot of information on that page that explains to you the rules of this auction. You need to read that. You really need to read that. You're taking it as is with no guarantee of possession, meaning there could be someone, the previous homeowner or tenant in the property. They're not giving you any access. You can't ask for a showing. You're not getting an inspection. You're not getting any of that. You're taking all the responsibility sight unseen on that property. Because of that, you don't have any outs built in either. So as soon as you win that auction and you've sent in that earnest money with the bidder fee that they collect right away, you're not getting that back, guys. Unless something seriously goes wrong where they can't provide you with clear title, they can't sell the property to you. Or for some reason, the seller decides not to go through with it. They find out the property's worth a lot more or something like that, which unfortunately I've had a couple times. But if you have a situation where the seller's ready to go and you as the buyer are like, I thought this was going to be worth a lot more, and now I look at it and it's not worth as much as I thought it was going to be, or I was asking some people and I think there's a lot of damage in there and I think I want to back out. Guys, you can't back out. There's no provision to back out of these contracts. So whatever deposit you put down, you're in jeopardy of losing that deposit. You can always ask for it back and see if they'll be really nice. They're probably not. You're probably going to lose that money. So you have to be, when you're bidding on these properties, you have to be 100% committed to this property, because if you bid on it and you win it, you are locked in. And you have to put your credit card information and stuff in there. If you bid on it, you win it, and then you try to ghost them, they are going to charge your credit card. They're going to get their money from you. You can't go through this whole process and waste their time and then try to back out. It's not going to work. So there's no backing out of these things. Please, this is 100% commitment. You have to be ready to follow through on these properties. If you're not ready to follow through, you're worried about doing inspection or anything like that, then you shouldn't be doing these kind of properties. This is a full commitment. Number 4, registration issues. So this kind of goes back a little bit to what I was just saying of you got to read everything that's on there. So I get people asking me, are they going to pay all the seller closing costs? Am I going to have to pay all the closing costs? What are the deals? What's going to happen at closing? Most of the time that's on that sheet when you're registering. When you're looking at a property, and properties are divided into events. Don't forget to look at the event that you're registering for. So all properties are not up at the same time. Obviously, they're up at auction. Some are one week, some are another week, some are a different week. And they're broken up into what auction.com calls events. Different events have different rules. Some events may have a realtor co-op commission. Some may not have a realtor co-op commission. Some may have the seller paying none of the closing costs. Some may have the seller paying some of the closing costs. You need to be paying attention to that because it's very important. Whenever I'm bidding on a property, I take a little screenshot, whether on my laptop or on my phone, of what all the terms are for that event so that I can refer back to it and look at it when I'm either going through the bidding process or after I get it under contract, I put it in the file so I can refer back to it and see, okay, this is a property that's going to have this, and this. So that you can refer back to it and remember, okay, this is this type of property where because they were trying to unload it, are going to pay for these closing costs, but on this property they're not. They weren't paying any of the closing costs on this one. You need to keep track of that. I've been getting a couple people lately. You need to have a team. First of all, always have a team. Please have a team. You can't be doing this by yourself. It's such a risk to be doing this by yourself. Part of your team is obviously having a good attorney. You want to double check everything. Whenever someone's evaluating the property, they can send it to me, say, hey, I want you to be my attorney. I'm looking at this property. Can you tell me anything that I need to know? I'm always happy to kind of look at it and give you my thoughts of what are issues I see with the property. Also have an agent. I've been getting a lot of people lately that don't even have an agent that they started working with yet, a realtor, a real estate agent. You should really have that for a couple different reasons. One is you need to know what the value of the property is, and you really kind of need an agent to do a market analysis to tell you what the comps, what comparable properties are selling for in an area, both the way it's sitting now and then after you fix it up. You need to have that to be making a educated bid on this property. If you're not doing that, you're really taking huge risks because you don't know what the property is worth. And that's part of where I get some people that want to back out because they get it under contract thinking it's worth what it's worth. And then they talk to someone and they go, oh no, this isn't what it's going to sell for. This is what's going to sell for. And they're going, oh, I don't think I want to buy this anymore. It's like, well, you were supposed to do that before, not after. You need to do that stuff ahead of time, guys. So please get your team assembled. Figure that stuff out. Find a good agent that you trust that you can work with for the market analysis, so that that realtor will know that they're going to be working with you and they're going to be compensated. You can then call them and ask them, hey, can you drive by the property? You need to have someone, if you're not local to the area that you're buying in, you need to drive by that property and double check. You don't know if it's burned down by a fire. They're not guaranteeing anything. You need to have someone walking the property like the day before the auction. Look in the windows. Does it look like someone's living in there? Are they not? That makes a huge difference because now you don't have to worry about doing an eviction and removing someone. If it's vacant, you can just go in the day of closing and start doing work in there. What's the condition of the property? You can't tell from the pictures. Is there something really bad with it? Is the roof falling off? Is there something horrible going on? Can they look in the window, see did the pipe burst of this past really bad winter that we had? I mean, is there some damage in there? What's going on with it? You can have a trusted agent to go over there and say, hey, can you go check this out? Let me know if there's any issues you see with the property so that I know that when I'm bidding. And oh, hey, by the way, and here's the kicker, guys, when you're registering, and I've gotten a lot of people doing this lately, you need to fill out the complete registration. So when you see a property and you like it, you're going to register for it. And you're filling out that information. Go take a minute to do that. Don't just hammer through that. I know you want to hurry up and get registered, but take a second when you're doing that registration. Are you going to register under your personal name? Because that's who you're going to take title under. You're going to take it under your personal name. Do you want to put it under a company name? If you want to put it under a company name, you can put the company name. We can hurry up and get like that LLC, whatever filed, so it's ready to go when you buy it. But if you're going to do that, make sure that the name is available too. Don't make sure you don't pick a name and then the name's not available and we can't get it registered before closing. So you have that kind of stuff. And then when you're on there, you'll have the ability to put down your agent information on there. Now, you need to make sure also that your agent is educated with this process because depending on the event, you may or may not have an agent co-op on there, and then you need to work out some way of compensating them. But most of the time, they're going to have something on there. I find most of the time there's some kind of co-op available for the agents. Not a huge percent. I would say 60, 70% of the time. So you need to allow for what are you going to do if it's one of those where they're not, where they just say, hey, there's no agent co-op on here. But otherwise, you're kind of wasting that money that you could be using because if you don't put it on there when you register your agent and they don't get that money, then that money is just kind of available. It goes to the seller. It could go to the other agent. It goes to people who are not working for you. This is your opportunity to say, hey, I won this bid. I want this agent to be compensated, and you have the ability to use that agent to do stuff to help you to go drive by the property, to do a market analysis, do that type of stuff. So when you're registering, you're going to need your agent's name, their company name, and you're going to need their state license number, and sometimes you even need their broker state license number. Just have them all give that to you. It's even on the public web in Illinois. It's all on the public website now, on the state licensing website. You just pull it up. But use it. I mean, otherwise you're wasting that money. That money just goes to someone else, goes to the seller, goes to the other agent, goes whatever. You could be registering, putting your agent on there and say, okay, you're registered for this property. I need you to go there and go check it out and let me know. And if I win it, you're going to get that money. So use it in your favor. Use all the tools that are available to the maximum amount. It's not extra money out of your pocket. So why wouldn't you maximize money that you don't need to pay out of pocket to get a better experience, to get more value? You got to stretch out every dollar you can, and that's the easiest way you can stretch out your dollar in the process of using that. So don't and I unfortunately had someone recently who had an agent but then forgot to put their registration information on there. You got to just do it. It takes a minute. Just stop, put your information on there, get your agent's information on there, and then you'll be ready to go. And then you have more people working for you because you're going to drive yourself crazy if you try to do everything yourself. All right, number 5. Guys, I did a whole video I think I did a whole video on strategies a while ago, and we talked a little bit about it. I might need to do another video just to kind of do a little refresher for everyone. You need to have an exit plan. Please, please, please. We need to talk about exit plans. We might make a whole video just about exit plans because it's such a big thing. And it's such a important step that so many first-time investors miss. An exit strategy is your long-term plan of how you're going to get out of a property. So when I get a new client in and they say, oh, I got this property under contract with auction.com. And I say, what's your plan with it? And they don't really have a plan. They just know it's a property where it has good value and they'll probably have equity in there. But they don't really know what happens after that. Which drives me crazy because it's like that. This is the whole point of what we're doing. This is the whole point of real estate investment, is to have the long-term plan, not just the tail wagging the dog. You're supposed to have the plan of what you want to do. So you should have an idea in your head when you're looking at these properties, when you're evaluating them, when you get the market analysis from your agent, when you're doing all this stuff, and you're registering for the property and you're bidding on it. Is your valuation based on that you think you can fix and flip the property? Is your valuation based on you're going to live in the property yourself? Is your valuation based on you're going to rent out the property and you're going to keep it for 20 years for, or 30 years for rental income? What's your plan? What's your exit strategy? Are you going to keep it 30 years for rental income and then sell it at some point, or turn it, maybe you're going to buy a condo, rent it out, keep it for 10 years, sell it, and then hopefully have enough equity in there where you can then turn around and buy, a 4 or 5 unit apartment building. That's your exit strategy. You're thinking of your long-term plan. You have to have a plan in the future, not just I'm going to buy it and we'll figure it out. It usually doesn't really work out well. You can't just have we'll figure it out later. Figuring it out later usually means you're going to figure out what you're going to do with the money that you lost later because you didn't really plan it out correctly. I mean, there are situations where you can make such a good buy that there really is no wrong move you can make. Certainly seen that where you can get a property for so cheap and it's such a good opportunity that there's really no way you can go wrong and you're going to make money. But you still got to know what you're going to do with it. You can't just sit there and do nothing and go, okay, this is awesome. Are you going to rent it? Are you going to sell it? What are you going to do? And they go, I don't know. You just have to know what direction you're going in. There's no wrong choice you can make here. And that's the other thing. There's no wrong choice. You just have to make the choice. The key thing here is making the choice, not making the choice, if that makes sense. Indecision is such a disaster in real estate because holding costs can kill a deal. You could have the best real estate deal in the world, but if you hold it, you don't do anything with it, and then you're just paying the utility bills, and you're paying any interest on, maybe you took out a line of credit to buy the property, and you're paying the real estate tax bill. And essentially you have negative growth because now you have dead money. You have this money that you just paid for this property that's not doing anything other than just sitting there. It's not accumulating any interest. It's not getting rental income. It's dead money. You're losing money because you could be generating income from that money. You're generating nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, that's negative growth because you are not utilizing your money for anything. It's just sitting dead on a property that's not generating income for you, and you don't have a plan for when you're going to sell it. So you're increasing your holding costs as you're going on, and you're not building up any money. That's you could have the best property in the world with the highest amount of equity, and eventually you will, if you just hold on to it and do nothing with it, at some point it will now you will now lose money on it. You can't just sit there and do nothing with it. You have to have a plan. So you take this property and you start executing your vision as quickly as possible. I've seen many first-time investors turn a really good deal into a really bad deal by holding it for too long. Holding costs can really bury you. So that's the other aspect of it is knowing when it's a good buy when you're going into it by evaluating it correctly and your exit strategy, but also having your exit strategy because if you just sit there and do nothing, you can turn a good deal into a bad deal from your indecision. So turning it over and getting rental income as quickly as possible. Getting it either cleaning it up and putting it back on the market. And I've seen people make a nice profit by just taking these things, isolating properties that are abandoned, that are worth more on the market, just going in, getting a dumpster, cleaning them out, maybe painting them out, throwing them on the market and making a nice little bit of money doing that. Or maybe you've been watching these HGTV shows and you really want to do a gut rehab, you can do that. But just to have the plan to start doing it, start executing it as fast as possible. Don't leave the property sit. Once you start moving on these things as fast as possible so that you can close on them right away. So just figure that out. Just know what your plan is. I had someone call me last week and they just said, I think I want to live in the house. That's awesome because and that's a valuation tool as well. You can look at a condo building and say, all the units in this building are selling for 300,000, and I know I can get this one off auction. Now I don't know if anyone's there. I might have to evict them, but I know I can get this one off auction for 260. Well, now you just paid 40 grand under market value for a property that you wanted to live in. That makes now it wouldn't be 40 grand. Probably wouldn't be a big enough buffer if you're trying to flip the property because you would have your holding costs. You'd have to pay realtor commissions when you sell it. You might have to evict them. You have the HOA, all that kind of stuff that can add up. That probably wouldn't make it profitable as flipping a property. But if you're planning on occupying the property and all you have to do is get the person out and you're going to fix it up for yourself, you're going to get the enjoyment out of the money you're going to put into fixing it up or cleaning it up or whatever, then it becomes a good buy. So that's where it really differs based on what your plan is for the property. And then you have the benefit of, maybe you lived there for 5 years, you bought it for really cheap, you lived there for 5 years, and you go to move and you can sell it and you get a nice profit off it when you sell it. That exit strategy makes all the difference in the world. So those are the 5 things I get most commonly from my people who watch my auction.com video. If you have any more questions, please comment below. Let me know. I'm always happy to answer them. If I get a bunch more questions coming in, maybe I'll do another follow-up video. But I think this addresses all the main questions and concerns and problems that I get right now. If you do get a property under contract with auction.com, please feel free to contact me. My information is below, my phone number, my email address. I'm happy to help you out, be your attorney, or just guide you through the process if you're not in Illinois, and kind of give you an idea of what to do. So happy hunting and hope you win a property at auction.